Stream. I'm Pugs Moran. We do this every Monday through Friday, noon-ish to whenever-ish. There's no hard end time. So why the hell should there be a hard start time? You people and your demands. It's unsavory, really. It's a bad representation of you and your character overall. I'm talking to you, the chat room. Yeah, I was watching you people complain. I'm watching. I'm sitting here. I could have gone at 15. Actually, I couldn't have. I was doing other things. You guys know Mondays are a little bit difficult because when I have my kid, Mondays after having my kid, I always have to rebuild the studio, and sometimes there's little things and stuff, and so I had to do that today. All right, here's what we're gonna do on today's show. The High Noon Show is all about everything that's happening in this day, whether it's headlines, hot topics, current events, buzz, whatever it is people are talking about. I try and give it to you here in a nice little, about 2 hour thing, sometimes less, sometimes more. It all depends on the day. It really is a celebration of the day. Before we talk about what's trending today, what's making news today, we like to do a little thing we call Previously On, where we go back in history and we talk about all the things that have shaped this day throughout time. Historic events that occurred on this day, some birthdays, some people who were sprung onto this world on this day. And of course, we mourn some of the losses as well. Once we get those out of the way, once we finish up with Previously On, we, then move into the trending topics and all that stuff of today. So if you're ready, let's get started. What do you say? It is high noon for the 17th day of April, year of our Lord, 2023. It is the 107th day of the year, which means 258 more days remain until New Year's Eve. So get those plans started. Previously on April the 17th. On this day in 1961, Bay of Pigs. Yeah, we didn't go back too far. Sometimes we go all the way back to like 4 AD. Jesus said, well, whatever. I guess that wouldn't be AD. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we go all the way back. We didn't have to go too far back today to get to the first big one. Bay of Pigs. Bay of Pigs today, 1961. A group of Cuban exiles, financed and trained by the CIA, lands at the Bay of Pigs in Cuba with the aim of ousting Fidel Castro. This didn't go very well. There was some discussion, although apparently no true commitment of U.S. military air support. It was dependent on. The invaders really needed that air support, and it didn't come, and they were slaughtered. By the way, was it called Bay of Pigs before this happened, or is it known as Bay of Pigs because it was like slaughter and whatever invaders? I don't know. Was that name posthumously given? Because what a terrible name! Like if it was just like, hey, where are you going on vacation? Bay of Pigs. I mean that sounds terrible. That sounds like an awful bay. You don't want to Bay of Doves, maybe, Dolphin Bay, something, snakes, a vacation destination for the whole. I don't know. On this day in 1969, Sirhan is convicted of assassinating Robert F. Kennedy. Sirhan, is he dead or is he? I don't know. No, didn't he just come up for like parole? He's like, I'm sorry. Yeah, this was at the hotel. So I guess it was the night of the California primary. I'm trying to get my Bobby Kennedy assassination facts straight. I think he had just won the California primary and was basically on his way to clinching the Democratic nomination, or he had Chicago. All right, now we got internet problems. All right, how we doing, guys? Are we still connected? Someone in the chat room, let me know if we're connected. People in the some to tell me is so far. Again, son of a All right. See if this one will work. So somebody in the chat room, let me know that you're all chat room check in if you can. See if this is a better connection. And then chat room, let me know. Let me know if you're experiencing problems. It's important that I monitor this today. Ugh. It has been an awful morning. It has been just an awful morning. I got to tell you. Thank you, guys. Okay, everything's looking good. Just been an awful, hectic morning. All right, so Sirhan, my knowledge of the Bobby Kennedy, he had just, his last words were, now it's off to Chicago, let's win this thing, which meant the Democratic National Convention. So I think he had just won the California primary, which had given him the Democratic nomination when Sirhan killed him standing there at the podium. Was he standing there at the podium? Or because they always say he was walking through the kitchen. I don't really know. Anyway. Terrible time in American history. This day, 1968, Bobby Kennedy was shot and killed by Sirhan. On this day in 1970, April the 17th taketh away, and April the 17th also giveth. On this day in 1970, Apollo 13 returned home successfully. Jim Lovell, my hero, Jim Lovell, got that stuff done. All the massive people. Excuse me, trying to fight back the hiccups. We were charting this. Was it on Friday that we reported that it was the day that Apollo 13 launched on its lunar mission, and they would be over the weekend experiencing some issues. And today's the day they finally got it back. We saw the movie Apollo 13. Good job, guys. Good job. On this day in 1986, an alleged state of war that had lasted 335 years between the Netherlands and the Isles of Scilly. They declared peace on this day after 335 years. So here's the problem. So like 335 years ago, the Netherlands in the Isle of Scilly, which are a bunch of, it's like a group of isles that are off the coast of England. I don't even know if they're like their own place or part of England, the United Kingdom. I don't know. Whatever they are, it doesn't matter. Netherlands and this little hamlet, this little island, were at war for like 300 years. And what that meant was basically they couldn't engage in any kind of economic trade. There couldn't be any, because they're technically still at war. 335 years. People are so stupid. People are just dumb. Maybe they forgot to declare peace. I don't know. On this date in 1986, an alleged state of war that had lasted 335 years between the Netherlands and the Isles of Scilly was declared peace, bringing an end to any hypothetical war that may have legally still existed. Hypothetical. On this day in 2013, an explosion at a fertilizer plant right here in West Texas kills 15 people and injures 160 others. Do you remember this? Remember when West Texas got leveled, or at least a 4 square block area of West Texas? A lot of people don't. Had this event happened a week earlier, it would have been, the biggest story in America. But it wasn't. It wasn't because it happened in the middle of the Boston Marathon situation. The Boston Marathon bombing took place on April the 15th. 2 days later, if you remember, and by the way, Netflix has a terrific documentary special that was released this weekend on Friday. It's 3 parts. It's just like a 3-hour movie. My son and I watched it this weekend, all about the Boston Marathon bombing and the Tsarnaev brothers. And if you remember, the bombing occurred, I want to say on a Monday. Yeah, because I think Patriots Day is always on a Monday in Boston. So the bombing occurred on a Monday, and the guys got away. And there was like a 2 or 3 or 4 day manhunt. I think 100 hours. I think it went till Friday night. So Monday to Friday night. So there was like a 5-day national manhunt where Boston was shut down and everybody was sheltering in place. And they had military tanks rolling through, all the different parts of Boston. By the way, it's so good. It's really interesting. The Netflix does a really good job on this documentary about the Boston Marathon bombing. And it's called Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing. And it's about the manhunt. And the entire nation was gripped on this story. CNN is like, we're looking at live pictures of tanks rolling through Watertown, Massachusetts. They are searching for the Tsarnaev brothers. An entire town in Texas just exploded. Let's go back to Watertown, where we're looking at a helicopter shot now. That seems to be the Cambridge area. There's a police presence. I think the whole town in Texas has been flattened. We're getting reports now of an MIT police officer who's mentioned. An entire town in Texas was flattened by a chemical plant explosion in West Texas, the Czech stop. We all know it. It's midway between Dallas and Austin. If you're going to the University of Texas or down there to Austin, typically maybe you'll stop at the Czech stop because it's got an amazing reputation for tremendous food. That's West Texas. Nobody talked about it. People in Texas were like, hey, a town blew up. But nobody, really, it wasn't a big national story. It was big here. My son was living in Austin at the time, and I was still here in Texas. And I can remember driving. I used to drive on weekends to pick up my son in Austin and bring him back. And it was, so I guess this had happened on like a Wednesday, the town got flattened. And so I picked him up on Friday. And we drove through West Texas. We got off there and I wanted to see. He didn't know. He was like, 4 years old. He didn't know what was going on. But man, I drove through that neighborhood. I saw the plant gone, just a big hole in the ground. I saw the town that surrounded it, the couple of blocks that surrounded it, just flattened, just houses. What's amazing is that the death toll it was firemen. A bunch of firemen got killed. It's always the case. Those dudes, everybody else is running out. Those are the dudes who run in. They got killed in the secondary explosion, which I think was the big one. A fire had broken out at this plant. Firefighters were fixing the fire situation, and the whole place went up. Just a terrible, terrible day. On this day in 2021, the funeral of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, takes place at St. George Chapel in Windsor Castle. So on this day, we put old Philip into the ground. How long did Liz live after that? How much longer? Like a year? When did she die? She die a year. She's been dead a year. Well, we got a new king already, so yeah, she's probably been dead a year. All right, so Liz lasted a whole year after her husband died. Let's do some birthdays. Let's talk about some of the people who were born on this day. William Holden, born on this day in 1918. God, William Holden was awesome. I love William Holden from the 70s. I love old, smashed William Holden. That's the best William Holden. I say smashed because William Holden was an incorrigible alcoholic. He was one of the greatest Hollywood film legends of all time. Incorrigible alcoholic who died the way, those people often do. He was living in a condo. He was a party boy. He was like, he never had no roots. He was like 55 or something. I don't know when he died. He was in his 50s. 60 maybe he was 60. I don't know. Maybe he was 60. But he was like dating like a really hot young girl, Stephanie Powers. Remember, she would go on to be in Heart to Heart. But before she was in Heart to Heart, she was just some hot young actress that nobody knew. And William Holden, this old legend, is running around town with, this chick for 9 years, living the life. He's got this kick-ass penthouse condo over Sunset Boulevard. Interestingly enough, probably his most famous film, off Sunset Boulevard where he's living. And he got shit-faced one night, like he does every night. He would get shit-faced every night. And he tripped on a rug in his living room and cracked his head on the corner of a coffee table and bled to death. Hollywood legend. That's how they die. William Holden draft! Yeah, we'll do a William Holden draft. Now, I told you, I'm a William Holden at the very end of his life fan. So my draft is going to be heavy on William Holden late in life films, where he's drunk and barely holding it together, and he's just in it because he's William Holden, and they needed a big name. All right, so first pick in the William Holden draft, I'm going to show the man some respect, and we're going to go with probably his signature film, Sunset Boulevard. Sunset Boulevard. That's right, the story of a desperate young screenwriter in Hollywood who somehow gets caught in the gravity of Norma Desmond, an old silent film star who used to be a big thing, and this young William Holden screenwriter is hanging out with her, hoping that she can give him a break, and she's delusional. She's crazy. Gloria Swanson. Good movie. Sunset Boulevard, the first pick in the William Holden draft. All right. Second pick in the William Holden draft, 1974, Towering Inferno. I love the Towering Inferno. One of my favorite movies. William Holden in a tuxedo trying to keep everybody calm with a drink in his hand. Oh, that was a fully loaded drink, too. That was no prop drink. William Holden was... He's, calm down, the fire's fine. He's awesome. He's awesome in Towering Inferno. Pick 2, Towering Inferno. Pick 3, we're going to go with Network. One of my all-time favorites. A top 5 film in my lists. Network. Patty Chayefsky's takedown of media in the mid-1970s. Something that we wouldn't catch on until like, 10 years ago? When everybody started going, hey, the media's corrupt. See Network, Patty Chayefsky. Patty Chayefsky basically knew what Fox News was going to be in 1975 when he wrote Network. Network, number 3 in the William Holden draft. Omen 2. That's right, he played Richard Thorne. I love the Omen movies. I love them. And dollars to donuts, Omen 2 is the best Omen movie. Why? Why is it the best Omen movie? I love the Omen 1. I love that one. Don't get me wrong, that one's good. But that one starred Gregory Peck. And Gregory Peck was the devil's dad. Well, you know, the devil is Damien's dad. Damien's like, the Antichrist. So he's the Jesus of the devil. And Gregory Peck was his dad in the original movie, but he got killed. So Damien 2, or the Omen 2, is where Damien's like a teenager. Oh, and he's a prick. And he's starting to understand who he is, and he's starting to understand his powers. And he's sent to go live with his uncle, Richard Thorne, the billionaire. That's William Holden. Oh my God, so good. All right, Sunset Boulevard, first pick. Towering Inferno, second pick. Network, third pick. Omen, fourth pick. All right, now this is hard. Because there's a whole bunch of other movies that we can pick here. But with the fifth pick off the board, I'm going with Bridge on the River Kwai. That's right, one of my favorite war movies of all time. Bridge on the River Kwai. That's what we're going with. And then we're going to do a whole bunch of like Academy Award-winning undrafted free agents that are absolutely going to make the team. Born Yesterday? Come on. Born Yesterday is going to make the team. Sabrina, the original Sabrina's going to make the team. Stalag 17. Stalag 17? Of course it's going to make the team. How about the Wild Bunch? All right, there you go. That's our William Holden draft. He's done a shit ton of other things, like he did like hundreds of movies, but I haven't seen a whole bunch of movies from the 40s, so I don't know. I'm familiar with Half in the Bag William Holden. I loved that guy. Actually, not even half in the bag. Let's go fully in the bag Holden. Born on this day in 1934, Don Kirshner. Do you remember Don Kirshner, American songwriter and producer? He was a record company guy. He was a short, middle-aged, balding, Jewish record company guy. And he became the MC of like a rock concert. Do you remember Don Kirshner's rock concert? It was on every night at 10:30 in the 70s. It was like if you didn't watch Johnny Carson, I think it was just Friday nights. There was Don Kirshner's rock concert, and then there was the midnight special, right? Remember those two shows? Were both of them Don Kirshner? I don't know, moving on. Born on this day in 1948, Jan Hammer. Jan Hammer. I'll tell you, man. 1980s, your 1980s starter kit would be a Fiero, because you can't afford a Ferrari, so you get a Fiero. Fiero, Miami Vice suit, like a turquoise, like a white linen Miami Vice suit. Okay, you got some Nagel paintings, right? Your house, you got Nagel paintings. Your walls look like Duran Duran album covers. 80s. And you also got yourself a Jan Hammer DVD or CD. You're listening to that. You're cranking that. That's like constantly. He did the Miami Vice theme. What else did he do? He did a whole bunch of stuff. Any kind of weird synth instrumental stuff that was used in the 80s to, I don't know, depict cool. That was Jan Hammer. Born on this day in 1948. Born on this day in 1954, Roddy Piper. I made him cry. I made Roddy Piper cry. Like, I made Roddy Piper have a total emotional breakdown. I don't even, we were talking about dead wrestlers. We were talking about how dangerous wrestling is. And he started talking about dead wrestlers, and he completely broke down. Roddy Piper, during the interview, also, we believe, smashed, drunk, at like 10:30 in the morning. So he was good interview, though, but I think he was drunk, and I made him cry. Born on this day in 1967, one of my biggest crushes of all time, Liz Phair, the beautiful Liz Phair. Liz Phair was somebody who I knew before she was famous. I knew Liz Phair when she was just putting stuff together and hustling demo tapes and all that stuff. Oop. Hold on a second. This is important. I'm going to have to take a quick break. So let's pausing the show. There we go. Okay, and we're back. I apologize for that. That was an unexpected delay. Okay, where were we? We were talking about Roddy Piper. Yeah, I made him cry. There you go. Boomer Esiason is celebrating a birthday today. Born on this day in 1961. One of my favorite sports radio talk hosts. Yeah, he's a good quarterback too. But yeah, he's really good. I've been listening to him do sports radio, morning sports radio since back when he was doing it with Craig Carton, which I thought Boomer and Carton was a really good show, and then Carton went to jail because radio people are kind of scaggy. But whatever. Happy birthday, Boomer Esiason. Oh, we were talking about Liz Phair. How I just always had such a crush on Liz Phair. She was always like the coolest girl in every room that she was in, and this is before she was famous. This is before Madonna signed her to a record label. And even after that happened, she never sort of changed. Like you'd see her in the same circles, and she was always unapproachable because she was the coolest chick in the room. Like even when she was just nothing, she was just another local person. Like she was real intimate. God, I had a crush on her. Moving on, Liz Phair, born on this day in 1967. Born on this day in 1974, Victoria Beckham. I think it's pretty much agreed upon. She's the most attractive of the Spice Girls, Victoria Beckham. I always thought she was the most attractive of the Spice Girls. Not that the Spice Girls should be evaluated solely on their physical attractiveness, but that was a big part of their brand. And Posh was my favorite back in the day. But I will tell you, I've had to change because have you seen Posh lately? Posh is like not dealing with, getting older well. She's doing stuff that's making her look like she's trying too hard. You know who's an absolute 10 as a 40-something-year-old mother of like 3? Ginger Spice. Holy cow. I never thought Ginger Spice was much. I know my partner in the Pugs and Parker show, James Parker, would probably think that she was the best because he likes redheads. But I never liked her. But man, Jerry Halloway. Jerry Hallowell is featured on that Netflix show about F1 racing, Drive to Survive. She's married to Christian Horner, who is the team principal he's basically like the general manager, head coach. That's what a team principal is kind of like. He's like the general manager, head coach of Red Bull, who would be like the New England Patriots of F1. They're like the best team out there. And she's on all the time. And man, do I have a crush on middle-aged Jerry Hallowell. Ginger Spice. But, happy birthday, Vicky. Vicky Beckham. She's having a birthday. You got the famous soccer player in the life in the spotlight. Rooney Mara, born on this day in 1985. Rooney Mara, she's, which one is Rooney Mara? Because Kate Mara, there's Kate and Rooney Mara. They're two sisters. They're the New York Giants people. Like their family owned the New York Giants. Wellington Mara and all that. So Rooney, Kate Mara, I think is the one that was on House of Cards. And Rooney Mara, I think is the one that's the girl with the dragon tattoo. Do I have that right? I don't know. I might not. I don't care. Born on this day, Rooney Mara, 1985. How about some people who have passed? Dick Shawn, American actor and comedian Dick Shawn, passed away on this day in 1987. Dick Shawn passed away in one of the craziest ways imaginable. Okay, so Dick Shawn, first of all, do you know who Dick Shawn is? You ever seen It's a Mad, 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 I don't know how many mads there are, World? You ever seen that movie? Dick Shawn is like the big young playboy. I'm coming, mama! Remember, he was Ethel Merman, I think, was his mom. And he was always, if you threatened his mom, oh my God, here comes, I'm coming to save you, mama! That was his whole thing. He was so funny in that. He's one of my favorite characters in It's a Mad, 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 again, I don't know how many mads there are, World. He died doing a comedy show. And I want to say like the University of San Diego or something. He's up on stage and he's like, I'm Dick Shawn, I'm being crazy, I'm a comedian, hey, everybody's laughing. And he dropped dead of a heart attack on stage. And nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. They thought it was a bit. And he just laid there. And he died. Everybody thought a comedian on stage doing a bit, has a massive heart attack, dies, nobody helps him because they think it's part of the bit. Good audience. I mean, a good comedy audience. They were rolling with they were letting the bit play out. They didn't interrupt it. That was good, but bad results when comedy goes bad. Dead on this day in 1998, Linda McCartney, American photographer, activist, and musician. She comes from the Eastman family. Linda Eastman was her name when she was born. She had the Eastman family, and she's a photographer. She comes from the Eastman family, and she's a photographer. And for years, everybody said that she was the heir to the Eastman Kodak fortune because she was she's not even the same Eastmans. There's no relation. Her family, just big money, rich people from the East Coast. Linda McCartney, dead on this day in 1998. She happened to be a photographer with a famous last name that would lead you to think that all the money came from photography, but it didn't. Dead on this day in 2008, Danny Federici. Danny Federici, you don't know him, but I do because we are losing members of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band, and on this day in 2008, we lost Danny Federici, keyboardist. Dead on this day in 2016, China, American wrestler lady. Remember her? Remember China? Oh, God, what a tragic lady. We interviewed China once. She came in studio, and, it was at the time when she had been on Howard Stern a lot. And, it was like, let's goof on China. It was like, that's what everybody was doing. That's kind of what you would expect. You have China, let's goof on China. And I didn't want to do that. I was like, I don't want to goof on her, man. I find her to be a tragic, sad person who's, this is not fun. That was why our show never had the whack pack, the staples of like crazy talk radio whack packs is always to have a number of people with disabilities and then be like, guys, it's funny. It's Rodney the Cripple, everybody. Rodney the Cripple. I never liked that. I never liked it. I never felt, man, when we first arrived here in Dallas, there was a character who was on with Ron and Don named Lispy Lynn Zimmerman. Wonderful dude. Nice guy. Great guy. But everybody tried to push us to have Lispy Lynn on our show regularly. And we're like, one, he's a part of the former show. And two, what are we supposed to do with him? And they're like, well, he's hysterical. And then the question would be, well, how is he hysterical? Because he can't talk would always be the answer. And it was always like, that's not hysterical. I'm sorry to say, but that's, And, he came out to everything. He was one of our people, one of the guys that hung out. Now, we did, I guess you could say, well, Pugs, you guys had Little George on all the time. Yeah, Little George was a different story. We loved Little George. We were encouraging the Little George. Anything we could do to help Little George, we were helping Little George. Little George was handy capable. That freaking kid could do anything. He lived miles and miles away and would show up at the studio every day. How'd you get here? Had to take 5 buses. Get in here, Little George. We're driving you home. I mean, that was different. That wasn't like... So China was kind of like that to me. Like China seemed, although she was making some money off of that whole thing. But when she came onto our show, it was just really depressing. It was like, what are we going to do? Take pot shots at her lifestyle? Why? Why are you so big? That's so weird. I didn't know how to talk to China. And we ended up going down like a path about, you okay? Kind of a thing. It was just a very weird interview. Anyway, China, she died on this day in 2016, as everybody knew she was going to, because she wasn't a mentally fit woman at all. She was broken. She was sad. Dead on this day in 2016, somebody who absolutely was not shed. Doris Roberts, the great Doris Roberts, legendary film actress. Movies in the 50s and the 60s, TV throughout the 70s. Most famous, she was Ray Romano's mama on Everybody Loves Rom. Wait, was that Doris Roberts? Or am I doing Estelle Getty? Which one? Wait, not Doris Roberts. Wait, hold on. Doris Roberts. Yeah, she was Ray's mom. She's so good as Ray's mom. See, I was just freeballing on Doris Roberts because I felt confident that I knew all I needed to know about her. And then I went, wait a second. Maybe I'm confusing old ladies. Yeah, Ross. Yeah. I think Lispy Lynn was called Cliff Pallet on Howard's show. Howard had no problem. Howard wanted to, look, we didn't want to use him. So, Stuttering John met him when, John would come to town. And so good for him, man. It worked out way better for him, right? Lispy got on Stern. And we didn't have to waste, not that we'd be wasting time, but you know what I mean? We weren't forced to do anything we weren't comfortable with, and everybody was happy. Dead on this day in 2018, Barbara Bush, former First Lady of the United States. Old Cotton Top herself, Barbara Bush. She seemed like a wonderful lady. I hate the Bushes. Wow, how could you hate the Bush? I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, go down some bunny holes, you could find some suspect shit from when George was in the CIA, and, even people got problems with Lil George doing the whole war against Iraq and Saddam and all. Whatever. Okay. But I tend to think that if you look at anyone's complicated, long lifespan, you might find some things that disturb you. I think on the whole, the Bush family seem to comport themselves in I would say a superior civil way. I would say that they are good examples of people who, at least in public, know how to behave. Can we just get back to that? It's like, it's funny. I think like back during the Iraq War and how against the Iraq War I was and how terrible I thought George W. Bush was. And then I came around on him, right? I came around like, you see how bad people are today, and then I look at like people I hated back then, and I'm like, why did I hate them? My God, they were actually. I disliked Mitt Romney. Now I'm like, Mitt Romney seems like a pretty reasonable guy. I don't know. So Barbara Bush died on this day in 2018. Politics aside, she seemed like a lovely woman. All right, let's talk about what is happening today. Let's get into all of the things Byron says. I'm very Republican. Nah, you don't say. And I know the Bushes were evil trash. Yeah, but that's because you're so Republican, you're not Republican at all, Byron. I think that you've gone over the cliff. I mean, lovingly, I say this lovingly. I don't care. I got plenty of friends who went over the cliff. But I don't think that the version of conservatism that you practice is in line traditionally with Republican values. Not at all. Not at all. So, I don't know what you are. You're conservative. You're definitely conservative. But the Republican Party, at least as it was for the past, let's go modern age, the last 40 years. I mean, that's not really recognizable. I mean, I don't know, but I feel the same way about the Democratic Party. I don't know why they seem to kowtow to weirdos so often. They do. Because everybody deserves respect. Yeah, everybody does deserve respect. But, you can also go, you can also be, all I'm saying is you don't have to be okay with everything. You can have an issue with it, but people, as long as they're not hurting people, should be allowed to do what they want. And just let's move on. That's how I feel. I just want everything to be easy. Byron says, no, I'm an old Republican. New Republicans are liberal as fuck. Are they? Really? Because I would say that, old Republicans who were pro-choice, and there were a lot of them, the Republican Party, look, abortion was outlawed by Republicans, that was the Republican Nixon administration when that all went down. So, Republicans have gotten different, I think. But look, everybody's gotten different. Everything is different. That's why it's so weird being here in the middle and looking at both extremes and going, I don't have a home. But the upshot of that is that the more and more I say that publicly, the more and more I realize that there's a lot of us out there who feel like we don't have a home. We're the most important swing voters right now who could go either way. Just give us somebody to believe in. Just somebody that doesn't seem obviously corrupt and, slightly trustworthy. I don't know. I can't tell if Barney and Byron are going at it or not. I can't tell. Adam says, one of my delivery drivers when I worked at a pizza place had a Fiero, and it worked like half the time. Yeah, that was Pontiac. The car that killed Pontiac. My friend had a Fiero, and I used to drive it all the time. I loved it. God, that was such a fun car to drive. It was like driving a go-kart. It was like, and then another friend later, a couple of years later, had an MR2, which was the Toyota version of the teeny tiny Fiero type thing. And the MR2 was more fun to drive. The MR2 was a better car. But the Fiero was just like a go-kart. It was like a Pontiac Sunbird, I think, that they just turned into like a go-kart. All right, let's get into what's trending today. Let's see here. Patriots Day. It's Patriots Day. It's Patriots Day. The Boston Marathon is being held right now. It is the 10th anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. Perpetrated 2 different blasts near the finish line. Dzhokhar and Tamerlane Tsarnaev, a couple of brothers from Dagestan. Look, so 10-year anniversary. Obviously, people are staying frosty out there today. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be fine. God, I say. Knock on imitation wood for Micah bullshit, whatever this is. Whoa. So there are 2, if you watch this Netflix documentary, and I hadn't really realized this until I watched the Manhunt, the Boston Marathon bombing. There are 2 schools of thought. And one of the schools of thought is that Dzhokhar and Tamerlane Tsarnaev, the brothers, were lone wolves who were radicalized. Actually, Tamerlane was radicalized, they believe, the story goes. And his influence over his little brother, Dzhokhar, is what led them to become a team. But there was nobody from the outside that helped them. Now, there is another school of thought, and I believe the difference is the Boston Police Department narrative or belief and the Federal Bureau of Investigation belief. So the FBI, one of them, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure, but one of them believes that it was going with lone wolf. We caught them both. It's over. No need to look any further. And the other side is going, they couldn't have built those bombs on their own. They obviously had some accomplishments here in the area, and we need to keep looking. So I don't know. But man, what a crazy story. I remember watching that unfold over, the course of a couple of nights. All the news channels were just constantly, following the situation in Boston. Everybody was there. And then on Friday night, there was a report of a cop, right? This happened on Monday. On Tuesday, I believe they released, on Wednesday, they released the pictures. Then Thursday, they had shelter in place and locked down the entire city, and nobody could go to work. Nobody could go anywhere because they were going door to door and all that stuff. And then on Friday, there was a report of a Cambridge, MIT University police officer being shot and killed. Turned out that was Tamerlane and Dzhokhar. I don't remember why they shot and killed. They shot and killed him, and then they carjacked a Chinese dude, I think he was like a Harvard student or an MIT student or something. He was from China. And they carjacked him. And they told this Chinese dude who they were and that everybody was looking for him and that if this dude just stays cool, everything will be fine. And they needed gas because they had told the Chinese guy, can this car make it to New York City? And the Chinese guy, they had a bunch of bombs in the car, which we would find out later. And the Chinese guy said, we need to stop for gas if we're going to go all the way to New York. So the plan was they were going to drive to New York and just set off some of these pressure cooker bombs or whatever it is that they made. So they stop at a gas station, and while they're gassing up, Dzhokhar goes inside to get some road snacks because, kids are kids. He goes inside, needs his Mountain Dew, needs his Funyuns, whatever it is he's going to get. Dzhokhar goes in, and Tamerlane is filling up the tank, and this leaves the Chinese dude alone. So the Chinese dude takes this moment to bolt, runs out of the car, runs across the street, runs to another gas station. You know, oftentimes corners have multiple gas stations. Well, he was lucky. This time they did. He ran to another gas station. He's begging. You can see the security camera from that gas station when the Chinese guy runs in the door. He's begging, please, please, call police, call police. Then you see Tamerlan come running after him. Oh, it's very scary. Police are called. Chinese guy survives. Now the police know that the shooters are there in Watertown. This leads to a big shootout a couple of blocks away where they're throwing bombs. They had a trunk filled with these pressure cooker bombs, and they are tossing bombs like grenades at these cops in a close quarters shootout on the streets of Watertown, Massachusetts in the middle of the night. And it's being carried live on TV. We're seeing all kinds of people streaming. We're seeing all kinds of video images. We're seeing it. We're hearing it. The police are, news is going live, and there's someone on a corner, and behind them you hear bombs exploding and guns going on. It's crazy. It was crazy. Tamerlan, his gun jams, and he rushes two cops. And Tamerlan's an MMA fighter, so Tamerlan wants to beat some ass. And so he comes running, and these cops, they put him down. They jump him. The cops overcome him. They got him on the ground. They're arresting Tamerlan. When Jokar jumps in the car to speed away, the cops jump off of Tamerlan to get out of the way of the speeding car, and Jokar runs over and kills his own brother. The reason Tamerlan is dead is because Jokar, in his desire to escape, ran right over his brother and killed him. And then, of course, that led to another, 24 hours or something of them looking for him, and they finally found Jokar in a boat. And that led to another. You got to watch this Netflix documentary. It's really good. Today is the 10th anniversary of the Boston Marathon since the bombing. It is not the 10th anniversary of the Boston Marathon because the Boston Marathon happened on the 15th of April in 2013. Also trending today, Fox News and this whole Dominion news thing, they're going to trial. It starts today. We've been covering and talking about all of the stuff that was discovered in Discovery. A bunch of damning emails and internal communications between big names at Fox News as well as with executives at Fox News. So today the trial actually starts. And a couple of notes before it actually starts. Fox News has apologized to the Delaware judge presiding over the Dominion Voting Systems lawsuit for failing to properly define Fox Corp chairman Rupert Murdoch's formal role at the network. So basically what was happening, the lawyers in this case have been trying to keep Rupert Murdoch away from it by saying he has no role at Fox News. He has no role at Fox News. And that's what they've been saying officially. Well, it was discovered that he does in fact not only have a role, but he's got a title at Fox News. And that title is, on Wednesday, the judge sanctioned Fox for withholding evidence and reportedly said if depositions or anything else needed to be redone, that it would come at a cost to the company. This coming after Fox lawyers admitted that Rupert Murdoch serves as the Fox News executive chair. Now, these lawyers probably didn't know that because it was an internal, shell game where they were trying to hide it from them, but they got called out on it and they got busted. So, okay, so Rupert Murdoch is actually the executive chair of Fox News. He's got a business card and it says that on it and everything. Even though it is probably just a token position, it's still, he's still saying that he's the executive chair. So we're going to want to talk to you about all of this and what you knew. So that trial is starting now. People falling all over themselves on it. There was a shooting in Alabama over the weekend. Saturday night birthday party, Sweet 16 at a dance studio. Some people walked in, shot a whole bunch of people. I don't know how to categorize this one. I don't know if this was just violent youth, gang related. What I do know is that a whole bunch of people are dead. High school football star has been killed. He was on his way to a football scholarship. 20 people were injured. How many are dead? Oh my God, I can't believe I would say it. A high school football standout was among the 4 killed. That's it. 4 killed in a mass shooting in a small town in Alabama where more than 20 people were shot at a Sweet 16 celebration for the victim's sister. So there you have it. A whole bunch of people were partying for the Sweet 16. They had rented a dance hall there in town. All the kids are dancing and having fun and still don't know anything about who did it. People. Oh, actually, wait a second. What is this update here? Sorry, I just saw. State investigators probing the shooting confirmed in a statement that there had been 4 fatalities, though an ensuing press conference provided few new developments. On Sunday, it was revealed 20 attendees had been shot by gunfire. Just a bunch of kids. Looking at these pictures from the party. Bunch of kids just having fun. Officials confirmed that the gunfire erupted at roughly 10:34 p.m. Saturday night at the Mahogany Masterpiece Dance Studio in downtown Dadeville. That's in Alabama. Local police initially did not provide any updates as to the number of victims or those injured for more than 10 hours. Witness accounts earlier in the day indicated at least 20 attendees were shot. Sunday morning, adding that parents see the still... All right, so I have a question for you. All right, so they don't have any suspects. Somebody walked into this dance hall in the middle of the night on a Saturday and started gunning people down. Very poor neighborhood. Very poor neighborhood in Alabama. Looks like it's almost exclusively black. Somebody just walked in and shot a bunch of people. Where is the active shooter alerts? Isn't there an active shooter somewhere in Dadeville, Alabama? Isn't there somebody who just walked? If this had happened in a nice suburb, they would be locking down the suburb. I don't understand. Why? Because they do the same thing that I do. We compartmentalize. Because on some level, they went, you know what? This was targeted. This was not random. This person is that we don't have to worry about him showing up at Kmart now and doing this to a bunch of... That's why. Has nothing to do with race. I think it has to do with the way that we all, maybe not we all, but I do, and certainly law enforcement does as well, when they're investigating these things. You have to look at the facts. All right, are we back? Let me see. We see. Okay, so are we back here? All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. We have to wrap the show up. I apologize. I told you it's been just a shitty day. It's been a whole bunch of shitty stuff. I have to go get a charger. The computer is not working. It's not charging, so we have less than 3% of battery. That's what happened. I didn't even notice because this never happened, so I've got to figure out what the problem is. We got to charge this back up completely in order for us to be able to do a show tonight at 9 o'clock. I apologize. it's not going up. It is not going up. See, it's plugged in, but it isn't charging, you see. It's plugged in, and it's not charging. I'm so sorry, guys. We'll be back at 9 o'clock tonight. We will be back at 9 o'clock tonight. We'll figure this out. Spent all morning putting this stuff back together, and I never looked to see where the battery was at because I just assumed it was charged because it's always charged. It's always fully charged because I know this is a problem. All right, guys, apologize. Yeah, it's happened before, but it doesn't happen often, and I hope you guys understand that. We've pretty much, this is on me. This is on me. I didn't check to make sure that the battery was fully charged. Because I know that even if it's plugged in, like the battery is plugged into the wall socket, right? So that should mean that I should be able to do the show and the battery will charge. But that's not what happened. The battery's not charging. It's plugged in, but it's going down. It's keeps going. Now there we go. No. Okay, should we ride this? This is like left of the slash with gasoline, right? Is it left of the slash? Yeah, left of the empty, left of the E. We're going left of the E. We're just gonna keep talking until this whole battery. Whoa, we are in danger zone. We are in low danger zone. I'll see you tonight at 9 o'clock. We gotta figure this problem out. Love you. Sorry. Apologize. Full shows rest of the week. We got a show tonight, Pugs and Parker at 9 o'clock. We'll make sure that's all working. Okay, bye everybody. Gotta go. Sorry.